afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sunset Safari. And as you can see, the bank of clouds slowly rolling in, bringing what is essentially, or at least I hope, not empty promises this time around. Last night we ended the sunset drive with shadow just as the rain was starting to come down, and by the time we made it back home for dinner, it had stopped. I hope that this evening doesn't do the same thing. I really hope that it brings us a little bit of rain to relieve this incredible drought we've been experiencing. But we do have exciting things that we have discovered since, and an exciting afternoon planned for you all. Good afternoon, my name is Jamie. I have VM on camera with me this afternoon, and can you believe it? Mr. Scott Dyson is back. He'll be out with Brian as well. We also have the lovely Nikki Austin back in FC, with Kirsty directing this afternoon's show. Without any further ado, let's get cracking and make our way to Arathusa. So, for those of you who might have missed the show this morning, first of all, you missed out on my incredible dung spitting talents. A once-off performance, maybe to be repeated, but not right now. Oh, by the way, that looks like a step eagle. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Or a tawny eagle. It's very hard to tell in this light, but the posture to me makes it look a little bit like a step eagle. Very similar. I can't see his gape and the distance between, or how far back the stripe behind his beak extends. I'm struggling in this particular light. He's perfectly silhouetted. I'm fairly certain we got a steppe eagle here. But doesn't he make for a picturesque scene? Exactly where we saw him the other day when I was out with Tebs. He was having a bit of a bath in a mud puddle, and then he flew up to that tree, creating that stunning image. There's nothing more striking than a bird of prey on a dead tree. Right, where was I? So I'm going across to Arathusa just to have a look and see, because this morning Shadow had crossed from where we saw her yesterday afternoon. She'd crossed into Hoffman's. I just want to go and have a look-see around the southern corner of Arathusa. First of all, to see if she pops out there, but also always in the hope that we might catch another brief glimpse of Kotile, as we did a couple of afternoons ago. For those of you who missed that update, it looks as though Kotile might have cubs. I still haven't managed to find out exactly where she's denning. I think it's somewhere around Shirley's itself, but we'll have a look and see if we can figure that out for you. And back to this morning. So James Hendry was absolutely right. There is a new mother at the den site, at the hyena den site. Two brand new little bundles of teeth. I was going to say bundles of joy. Bundles of teeth. Bundles of sharp teeth and mischief. Very, very tiny. We only had the briefest glimpse this morning as they made I wouldn't say their debut, because apparently they appeared last night, but their first proper debut on our live safaris. They are the cubs of the hyena I think of as Madam, though you feel free to object if you don't enjoy that particular name. The matriarch, Bella's mother, has had brand new cubs. So at some point this evening, either Scott or myself will be returning to that den site just to have a look and see what's happening there. But for now, we journey on to Arathusa to see what we can find there. Oops. So this is exactly where Shadow crossed left into Hoffman's. Last night we saw her, she was moving through what we know of to be the boundary between her mother and her territory. That western boundary of Karula's territory, the eastern boundary of Shadow. And she was moving through, she was scent marking, she was phlegm and grimacing. Whether or not she was phlegm and grimacing at the scent of her mother or at the scent of a male, we'll probably never know. I suspect, though, that she was having a sniff around where her mother had scent marked, because she then deliberately went and scent marked on top of it. And we've seen them there before, of course. that incredible sighting with Brent, where the two of them lay a couple of meters apart and grumbled at each other for a while. Might actually take, because it's just been graded, can actually take Triple M, since it will put us right next to Hoffman's and give us an opportunity to see if at any point during the middle of the day shadows crossed back towards Arethusa and onto our traverse zone. Liam, you'll have to help me out. After yesterday, I've lost my confidence in leopard spotting. After I drove straight under a termite mound, desperately looking for where Shadow was, and didn't realize she was above me. So we'll have to, or I just need to get my eye back in.
I will, put it out.
Okay, Liam says he'll sort it out for me. Thanks, Liam. It was very, very embarrassing, but a bit funny. It was a little bit funny. She wasn't stressed out, so it became a funny situation. It's actually a joy and a pleasure at the moment to drive along Triple M. So when I say they've graded the road, they've come through with a big tractor and a big sort of iron base of tyres that then gets dragged along the road, smooths out all of the corrugations that get formed over the months. It's one of those things that they can't do all that often, because if there is a big downfall, it's going to make the road 10 times worse and actually contribute in its own way towards erosion. Whenever you see us going, for new viewers actually, I know our regular viewers are completely familiar with this, but essentially a road, any road through any place, creates a really nice, easy pathway for water to flow down, which means that can actually, if not managed properly, it can actually act as a drain on the surrounding area's underground water supply. And that's why you see us going over bumps all the time. And I'm sure some of the new viewers must have been watching that and thinking they were speed bumps. It's not speed bumps, they're not to reduce our speed, although certainly in Arethusa they do. But really you shouldn't be speeding anyway. But it's actually to collect water and stop that runoff. They're known as bolsters. And next to each one, on either side, is a drain. So an area that they've dug into the soil, and basically what those bolsters do is they stop the flow of the water and they redirect it on either side through those mitre drains into the soil. Come on, Shadow. The nice thing about today and today's weather is that it's never really been particularly hot, which means that there's a very good chance that the leopards of this area have been moving around, wandering through, could quite possibly make an appearance. I'm also curious to see if Tingana decides to move back across. So originally, I'm suggesting we go this way. We're going to go that way. Cool. I'm feeling lucky. Okay, well, this is where we saw Kutile, or we could see Shadow. Either way, I think Liam's absolutely right. I went into autopilot and went straight towards the sort of Arethusa airstrip road. And I think Liam's right. I think we should approach from the southern side. Let's see if one of our two lovely ladies decides to pop out. I wonder if the animals are not sensing some kind of storm or rain. I feel a storm coming on. I don't know, I've been wrong about these things before. There's just a slightly electric heavy feel to the sky and to the air around us. It's got that muggy heat. Of course, the leopards in our lives also make our job a little bit tricky, because at the moment the soil is quite compacted. So they're not really They're not the heaviest walkers at the best of times. When the soil's hard like this, it becomes a bit trickier to actually see where they've walked. About the leopard tracking we did. So about 2 days ago, I tracked a male leopard through Djuma and across into Torchwood. And I thought it was Mvula. It turns out it was Tingana. So I'd be interested. He's really pushing into Mvula's territory. Even just from my 6 months of my experience, it seems as though that boundary is shifting further and further east between those two leopards. I'd be curious to know how long he decides to stay in that area, or if he decides to make his mysterious appearances, as he always does, in the most unexpected of places. Just trying to make sure that I don't miss any kind of tracks. It's quiet out here. This is close to where Kutile was first spotted. Squirrel shouting. Sound like a frantic leopard alarm call. But you never know. Stop for a moment and have a look. You hear that squirrel? It sounds like a witch's cackle, almost, to me. Just want to double check the road. Make sure I haven't missed any tracks crossing. Hey, squirrel, have you gone quiet now? Yes. Yep, completely quiet. Generally, I mean, it's hard to tell because squirrels' alarm calls for different things, to me at least, sound fairly similar. But usually if it's a leopard, once one squirrel gets going, the rest of them start up as well. And they tend to alarm call for quite a long time. And if that leopard, particularly if that leopard is lying down, they will just continually alarm call, much like those guinea fowl that we saw with Tingana the other day. But there is a certain frantic note to a squirrel that's trying to tell everybody that there's a leopard that they've spotted. Slightly more frantic than it might be if they were just having a bit of an internal dispute, which does happen, or if it's something like a bird of prey or a snake. Making sure that I check the top of every single termite mound. Well, I believe that Scott would like to say good afternoon to you all, and I'm sure I don't have to ask you to join me in welcoming both him and Nikki back amongst our ranks. It's fantastic to have them back. Unfortunately, if you're wondering why you haven't heard from Scott just yet and you've been listening to me prattle on, it seems as though, as per standard, it was Wendy's re-emergence in the afternoon as well. It was our first drive back with Wendy. And Wendy's not working. So let's pop over to Scott so he can say hi.
Well, hello everyone. And it is great to be back here in the Sabi Sands, even though we are in a vehicle that is not working. For now, as Jamie mentioned, this is Wendy, and she's been out of commission for a couple of weeks. The whole time that I've been on leave, actually, for about 2.5 weeks. So is she. She's been resting, and she appears that she still needs more time off before she gets busy in 2016. So we're waiting for Steph and Eugene to come and rescue us. Yeah, I've got Brian on camera with me. Great to be teamed up with him again. And really looking forward to getting out and exploring a little bit more. It's remarkable how dry it is out here. It looks like the earth's been toasted by a big flamethrower. And I can't believe how dry it is. Some of you have been following the show very closely over the last few weeks. I haven't, but really look forward to getting to hear what's been going on. It sounds like a lot of interesting stuff has been happening with the hyenas. Not many lions around. Hopefully that's going to change. And some interesting stories with leopards, some speculation with Shadow having cubs is one thing I heard while I was gone. And I'm really looking forward to taking you guys on some more action and adventures. Some of you may not have met me. My name is Scott, and I've been here for just over a year and really look forward to getting stuck into 2016. There's some exciting prospects on the cards for Safari Live, and we're just going to have to be patient with these tech issues here and not let them demoralize us. The good news is there is another vehicle, Rusty, back at camp that we're going to probably swap into. We were just hoping to get Wendy back out and see if she was operational, but no luck. Even though Eugene took her out for an hour and a half this morning, there seems to be something that's gone wrong in the course of the day. And let me see if it does it again. It's quite interesting, actually. When I pushed the immobilizer earlier, oh no, it's not doing it now, but the fuel indicator started shaking wildly when I pushed the immobilizer, and I'm not sure what that meant. Let me see if we turn the key, what may happen. Oh, no. And then there's this funny kind of shuddering noise. Tick, 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 tick. So I don't want to push it too much and try starting it too many times in case there's some serious problem in there that we're just aggravating further. Oh, here it goes again. Check this out. What could it be? Well, that's, oh, and then you can do that as well if you touch one of the lights indicators. So there are some electrical problems with this vehicle, and we, like I said, we don't want to take any chances and push it too much. But I'm glad you guys did get to see exactly what's holding us back. And thank you so much to all of the very kind words, and welcome back. It is great to be back, and like I said, hopefully it won't be long before we're on safari together, and we're going to send you back to Jamie so that you guys can carry on with that adventure with her. See you later.
Poor Scott. I don't think that was the way he was planning on making his debut drive after coming back from leave. Nice to see Wendy again, I guess. Static as she may be. We've just arrived at the southern boundary. So far, all I've seen in terms of tracks coming across has been hyena tracks. Big hyena tracks, though, that have popped through here. As we've chatted a bit about the leopard dynamics and the fact that Tingana's pushed so hard into Mbula's territory. Scott, you were wondering where Mbula is and when he was last seen. Just give me 1 second. I have to just remember. He was seen yesterday by some of the, I think it was the Nkoro guides, and he's moved much further east. He's sort of in the southeastern corner. He's been quite close to where Tingana was wandering around as well, and he was seen very close to a Birmingham boy sighting. And sorry, Scott, if you give me 1 second, I'll remember where it was exactly he was seen. But he has been seen recently. He is looking well. I mean, Mbula, in theory, he's actually quite old. Oh, he's not old, he's reaching senior age for a big male leopard like himself. And he's starting to, in my opinion anyway, I've only ever really seen pictures of him in his prime, and I've only ever seen him a couple of times while I've been working here. But he's starting to look a little bit sort of thin around the back end, which is usually where male leopards start to lose weight a little bit as they move on past their prime. But I mean, he's still got plenty of life in him yet. He's perfectly healthy. Oh, I wish I could remember where he was seen. It was somewhere in the southeastern corner of his range and quite close to the Kruger boundary, Scott. Maybe if any of the viewers know, because I know that that update was shared amongst some of the Facebook groups, you could help in jogging my memory as to where he was. I think it was an update posted by Coral. But that was about 2 days ago. 2 days or yesterday he was seen. So he's absolutely fine. I mean, he's alive and well. Actually, I need to stop at a starling and make a correction. There's the gone. So the other day, I was on drive at Buffelshoek Dam, and I misidentified a starling as a greater blue-eared starling. I realized my mistake almost as soon as I'd said it. I was sort of looking out of the corner of my eye and concentrating on Duggar boys. And I completely, I think it was when either the buffalo chased each other or there was some kind of change in the sighting, or I was listening to a question coming through and I completely forgot to correct myself. So when I see a good example of a Birch's starling like this one, just to show you, I identified it in that sighting as a blue-eared and it caused much confusion. So my sincerest apologies for that. I should have corrected myself as soon as I realized, but I got distracted. So the long tail, the slightly bigger size, the dark eye, that's what makes it a Birch's starling. It's actually a much bigger bird than the blue-eared starling. I mean, this isn't the best view, but I thought that since I can see them, I'd better correct myself while I remember. So sorry, everyone, if I caused you much angst and confusion. I certainly didn't mean to. I just completely went out of my head. Luckily, Mr. Hendry, who should be on leave, was on the ball and picked up on my mistake. Trying to find a nice view. What would be ideal is if those starlings would kindly go and stand side by side, a blue-eared and a woodpecker. Nice. Let's try and think the best view actually might be if I go backwards. It's a nice woodpecker. It's a bearded. Oh, no, you silly thing. Why did you go around that side of the truck? Oh. Birds. The roller's still there. Oh, well, thank you, Roller. At least you're being obliging. Deeply silhouetted against that sky.
You can't find him.
Where's he gone? Yeah, I mean, he's there, but you're in exactly the right place. It's just the silhouette of the light. Oh, dear. Oh, wildlife with feathers and wings. Let me go backwards slightly. Maybe we can get the colors right. No, he's gone too. Oh, that was the joys of trying to capture birds on live television. I don't know how Steph does it. Managing to get things like species like buntings and so on screen. Well, at least here's a mammal species that should be cooperative. And as I make my approach, Nigel, your screen isn't dying. It is getting dark. It's sort of coming and going. I'm really hoping that we get a little bit of rain tonight. It definitely feels like as though we might. Right, you lot, are you going to run away or are you going to cooperate and stick around? I hear you. Ooh, for those of you who missed this morning's safari as well, We also managed to see banded mongoose. It's the first time I've put them on camera. And a little dwarf mongoose. Luckily, they're airstrip mongoose, so they're used to traffic wandering backwards and forwards. Are a little bit more relaxed. Step, step, look. Step, step, look. The other nice thing about dwarf mongoose is that they tend to get curious and relax fairly quickly. If you give them enough space and enough time. Step, step, look. You've got to be alert. As the smallest predator out here, you never know when you might become lunch for somebody else. We see you. Ah, that's very uncooperative. Good place to search for insects, though, to hunt. One of the most fascinating little sociable creatures. They live in these family groups in termite mounds that they inhabit. I've only seen these two, but I'm fairly certain there's more of them hiding somewhere around. I just can't quite see where they are. They might be quite spread out, doing their afternoon foraging session. But much like wild dogs, they have an alpha breeding pair. And the rest of the family is there to help support and help raise the youngsters of the alpha pair. That doesn't mean that subordinates don't breed. They do breed. It's just generally that the alpha pair is the one that reproduces most frequently. And I know that I'm sure regular viewers also always try to have a look for the mongoose with the white face. I know I certainly do. We're slightly away from that territory of where I suspect the territory of that white-faced mongoose might be. For those of you who missed it, it was a mongoose with a white face. That was quite literally what it was. It was a dwarf mongoose with what looked like, and it was so well timed as well because it was right around Halloween, looked like it had skull face paint on. And I asked one of my mongoose expert friends, and she said that it's actually quite common whenever there's some kind of injury to the skin, something that causes the mongoose to lose its fur, quite often grows back white, which is what had happened to this particular mongoose. And it's so striking. I always look out for it. I've only ever seen it once, and it was when Tebs first started working here, I think. I still haven't seen it ever since. I always keep a lookout around Triple M and Zebra Drive, though, because that's where I suspect their territories are. So we're sitting in this particular family's territory, but it's tiny. I mean, it'll probably be not any further than the middle of this airstrip from where we are at the moment. So they do have fairly limited areas that they move around in. Big for them, but fairly tiny in terms of our scale. So here, parrots making a terrible fuss. Might go and have a look at them next. The second one has returned to the relative safety of the burrow. And Pam, just while we're looking at this environment, and we've had quite a close look because obviously the mongoose have been scuttling about, Pam wants to know if it's normally grass around this particular area or if this is how it usually looks. Pam, this is how it usually looks at the end of a long dry season. Yes, this time of year, in this particular season, in midsummer, when the rains should have been pouring down upon the earth, we should have grass. And we've spoken about this year being particularly bad, but last year was also not the world's greatest rainy season. I'm not sure about the Sabi Sands because I wasn't here at the time, but the area that I was in, just further towards the Drakensberg Mountains, we probably had about maybe 2/5 of the average annual rainfall, maybe a quarter. I mean, it was not much in terms of total rainfall for that season. So there should be a thick blanket of grass, and maybe some of the regular viewers who've got screenshots from, for example, quarantine clearings from this time last year. It would be lovely if you could share one or two of those if you happen to have them, just to show some of our new viewers just how dire this particular situation is. It would be interesting to see, because this should be grass. Look, there's certain damage that's been done in the building of the airstrip, but I know that the Arethusa guys are very busy in working to rehabilitate it, and they've actually made sure that everybody knows not to drive along it. I just want to get hold of Sean on the radio while I can see him. Afternoon, Sean. Copy that, thank you. Just saying hello to Sean from Arethusa. Alright, so I chatted a little bit about the territories of the different leopards and the territories of, for example, the mongoose, and maybe I should have been a little bit more exact in the way that I phrased it, because for the dwarf, no, actually it was about right. So Charlene, you were wondering about the difference, because we quite often refer to, sorry, I'm going slowly to see if I can spot these parrots that have been squawking. Can, it's going to be really tricky to get them though. Cheating. Oh, come on, you're going to make an appearance sitting in the lobthorn tree, hiding out there. It's going to be quiet for a moment so you can hear the chirps, because they sound just like the parrots that one might find in a pet shop. There you can see him. Little brown hooded parrot. Little brown hooded parrot that flew away. Okay. So as we continue to... Oh, don't do that to me, Jigger. Phew. That was human error more than anything else. Right, where was I? Oh yes, home ranges and territories. So you're wondering about the difference between the two. And you often hear us refer to it's the core part of their home range, or their territories are shifting, and there is a subtle difference. So generally speaking, home ranges are much bigger than territories. And something like a wild dog pack, for example, would have a very, very large home range, and I'm talking easily 2/3 of the Sabi Sands private game reserve itself. I mean, easily 22,000 hectares of territory. So a home range, let's use a territory home range example. Let's say the Nkuhumas. The Nkuhumas have a home range that extends across Torchwood into Kruger National Park, right up into Buffelshoek, and they've been seen in Manuletti. They come across to Arethusa. They come across to Hoffman's. They've got an enormous area in which they roam. That is their home range, that land that is familiar to them and which they will slowly move throughout the year. But that is not their territory, because they cannot possibly feasibly defend all of that in one go. So a territory is what the term we give to a parcel of that animal's home range, so a part of it that they're utilizing currently at this particular time of year, and that they are fiercely defending. So one that they're actively marking, for example, with male lions or maybe with leopards, that they actively defend the boundaries of, and that they put out a statement that that is their set territory. And then you get the subtle distinction there. It's not always, the boundary is not always that easy to see. Thank goodness I'm being completely distracted by my territory talk. It's the warthogs. And there's babies. Hey, it's our favorite warthogs on the Arethusa airstrip. With new little ones. Hello, babies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little piglets. Awesome. Enjoying the last few mud puddles from that big rain that we had. And already you can see they've been wallowing. Oops, just realized that Mom's moved slightly away from them. Hello, little piglets. This lot are only a couple of months old. I would say probably about 3 months old. Tiny still. If you look at them from this distance, you can see how well that white tuft of fur along the cheeks actually works, because when they look at you face on, almost looks as though they've got little mini tusks. And that, of course, is the purpose behind those white tufts around their chins, to make them look bigger and scarier than they actually are. I'm pretty successful at the moment. And they're called warthogs, of course, because they have a collection of what are termed warts on their faces. And Eric, who's watching in Virginia Beach, Eric, you were wondering what the purpose of those warts are. Is it a defensive mechanism? Is it to store fat, or is it a way of a bundle of nerve endings to navigate underground? And to the best of my knowledge, Eric, and that's actually a really, really good question. Okay, first of all, obviously for new viewers, Eric realizes this, but for new viewers, it's not warts as we know them. It's not any kind of skin disorder. They are pieces of grizzly cartilage on their faces. And I'm sure there must be some kind of evolutionary purpose behind them. I don't know if they have a navigating effect of navigating underground, although I actually think that that makes total sense. But as far as I know, they're just there for defensive purposes. They're pieces of patchy grizzle, so cartilage and harder connective tissue. And the reason I say it's mainly a defensive purpose is because the fact that the best way to identify a female versus a male warthog, if it's facing you, although she's kindly presented us with a perfect view of the other method, but females have 2 warts on their faces, males have 4. And that immediately makes me think that it's got more of a defensive purpose, because obviously if it was used for navigation or for fat storage, there'd be no real reason for the males to have more than the females. But if it's used for a defensive purpose, then it starts to make sense as a protective lump around the sensitive eyes and possibly the nostrils. But I agree with you that they're quite a strange aspect to the warthog's entire evolutionary biology. And I've never thought before as to whether or not they have any kind of navigational purposes. I'll double check for you, Eric, but I don't think so. Not as far as I know. I think more useful for that would be the little tufts of hair, their whiskers around their face. And they are actually, you can see the mane, but if you ever get yourself into close proximity with warthogs, they're actually quite bristly creatures. And I mean that in both senses of the word. Not an animal that you want to corner. They look, particularly these cute little babies, they look particularly harmless. But speaking from experience and knowing a couple of people going through physiotherapy, they are absolutely not. They're animals, and they come with their own powerful physical attributes. They've certainly been responsible for a couple of my near heart attacks whilst working in the bush. And in fact, one of the bushwalks we did, when was it? It was tracking, we were tracking a vula, and I think Brent was doing the bushwalk, Brian was on camera, and Steph and I were just wandering along behind helping out, and I was there to just observe the whole process. And we found a vula, and we went back to get Brent, and while Brent was looking around for them, he found a warthog burrow with a warthog in it, and they back into their burrows and they stick their heads out. And if they feel particularly threatened in that burrow, they do a mad dash, and they explode out of there at the speed that would make NASA envious, I promise you. And we went back afterwards, after Mvula disappeared. We went back and we had a look into the den, sort of trying to stand from the top and looking down. And the warthog exploded out. I promise you, Brent and I leapt apart in different directions about a meter in the air. Brian was incredibly controlled, but then, of course, Brian had a 12 kilogram. How much is it for him? 12, 15?
Batteries alone are 5.
Batteries alone are 5. I mean, that backpack is heavy, so maybe Brian was slightly restricted as to exactly how much he could leap into the air. He definitely... Let's put it this way and say the entire group took several large paces backwards away from that burrow. It must have looked hysterical, must have looked so comic, and the 4 of us launching ourselves like fireworks off in different directions. We've got 2 5-year-old viewers, Olive and Emma, who are watching in Illinois. So, Olive and Emma, you would like to know if all 5 little piggies belong to one mom. So, is she the mom of all of them? And as far as I can tell, yes, she is. I think that they are all part of the same litter, so they're all brothers and sisters. Oh, shame, one's lying down to have a bit of a nap. Nope, just foraging. And the reason I think that they're all part of one... fly in the mouth. Yuck. They're all part of the same litter is the way that they've been moving about. They were in quite a sort of tight group when they first arrived. They're also all the same age, and they seem to follow one female in particular. So I'm fairly certain, Olive and Emma, that they do come from one group. But sometimes you do see 2 mommy warthogs that join together when they both have babies, and they spend a bit of time in each other's company as a way of helping to keep their babies safe. So basically, the more eyes and ears there are to watch for dangerous predators like leopards, the better the chance of their baby's survival. So they do join company. But in this case, I think it's just one mommy, and I think it's the big mommy on the left. I think the other female is just an associate. And we spoke about the little warts on the warthogs' faces, and personally I happen to think that warthogs are incredibly attractive. But I think I'm biased, but strange that way. But Finn, you were wondering if the warthogs are born with the warts or if they're something that develops. And Finn, welcome. It's lovely to have you watching from Pennsylvania. And my answer to that is, as far as I know, they are born with them, but very, very much reduced. So they're present from birth, but they start to increase in size as the piglets grow. So they're very small, disproportionately small when they are first born. And then they start to grow and lay down cartilage and sort of tendinous tissue in those particular growths on their face. Makes them look more and more intimidating. One of the first parts of a little warthog to grow, though, apart from those warts, are the little white tufts on the sides of their faces. It's a way of making them look... In theory, it's a way of making them look much scarier than they actually are. Doesn't really work. I mean, they are clearly such tiny little creatures. And that mother will be largely responsible for their defense. They're very fast, but they've essentially got to rely on her. And she's done incredibly well, even just to get them to this age. There is so much out there that considers a baby warthog a very tasty snack. Fascinating, though, how they're already foraging for solid food. Again, the pattern that we've seen developing, we've seen it with the young impala, the young wildebeest. As soon as possible, the little animals try to get to independence. They've got a much more reduced period of maternal care and nursing than, for example, something like the hyena cubs that we've been watching. Off they trot. Interestingly, very much reduced at the back of their little hooves. That's impossible for me to show you now at this distance, obviously. But at the back of their hooves, they've got two back toes from sort of the evolutionary line where they used to have, because we know that hooves are one of the most highly evolved foot structures. So those two toes joining together, and then basically it's the animal walking right on the tips of their toes. But at the back, much like you see in buffalo, you've got those reduced little stumps from where they used to have more than two toes. And that occasionally in thick mud actually shows up in their tracks as well. Particularly where they push down deep. I'm going to leave our warthogs, as lovely as it has been. Bye-bye, little piggies. Good luck. Nice thing is with this Arethusa warthog group is that we could well see them lots and lots. Look at this. Yay, rain. Starting to make its way through. As we watch those little piglets develop, and we should be able to, we very often come across the Arethusa airstrip, and this family seems to inhabit the airstrip, or certainly they have since I've been working at WildEarth. We'll be able to watch the growth of those little piglets' tusks. And Christopher, you were wondering if they are bone or if they are ivory or enamel, and the answer is they're ivory. So technically they do count as ivory. I wish I'd picked that warthog tusk up off the table. Steph was sitting this afternoon at lunch trying to compare the width of my arm to the warthog tusk, which was quite sad in its own way. But they are ivory, so it's teeth. Essentially, just like, for example, elephant tusks is the most obvious example, but the other very good example is hippo tusks. So the hippo in their bottom jaw, they've got those forward-facing tusks pointing almost like spears, and then the ones going up on either side. Those are teeth. The warthog tusks are teeth. They bend up outwards. They're basically modified canines in the way that they curl up. And it's not the top tusks, and I'm sure most of our regular viewers are very familiar with this concept, but it's not the top tusks that are actually the most dangerous part of the warthog. They've got tusks on the bottom that, from constant moving their jaw up and down, opening and closing their jaws, that have actually worn to razor sharp points. And one day I'm gonna find a lower warthog skull to show you, and you can see exactly what I mean. I've found them before, and really, when I say razor sharp, I mean really, really sharp. And that is the bit that you've got to watch out for, because they know exactly how to utilize those teeth as weapons. The other animal you might get really lucky to see, really lucky. I haven't seen one yet while I've been on Juma. One animal you might get lucky with is a bush pig. James Taylor, you were wondering if boars and wild hogs are the same, or if warthogs are the same, and the answer is no. They are separate from them. I mean, obviously they're all part of the what's it called? Is it Suriform family? I'll double check that for you when I have a moment, but they're all part of that, you know, they all relate to each other, but they are quite distinct from the wild pigs and the wild hogs that might occur within the Americas and Europe. Wow, those colors of those clouds, it's extraordinary. I mean, it's not sunset yet, it's not even close to sunset. The apocalypse. Oh dear, oh well. At least we're in a good place, I guess. Look at that. Amazing. Why is it so pink? I can't work that out. Interesting. Definitely a magnificent weather system moving through here. If it would kindly not blow north again, I would be very appreciative. Come on, rain. We can still drive in you. Just a little bit of drizzle. We really need a sort of a 2-week drizzle period to break the impact that this drought has had on the dams. Where was I? Sorry, James. I was in the middle of answering your question. So, slightly separate from, so a sort of a distant relative of those wild boars and those wild hogs. But the bush pig, the African bush pig, and let me show you a picture while I do this. Do you think I can drive and look it up probably? The nice thing about Jigger is that it no longer veers off to the side. Bush pig, 80. Keep your eyes peeled, everybody, because I can't drive spot. Maybe I should just stop. Let's not try and do too many things at once. Since Wendy's not working, we can't really afford for me to crash Jigger as well, can we? Here we go. Picture of a bush pig. So that is a closer relative to the wild boars and to the, what was the other thing? Wild hogs that we were chatting about. Big creatures. I'm talking sort of well up to about 1.5 meters or over 1.5 meters in length. And just up to about 1 meter, so about 3 feet at the shoulder. And a good, probably heavier than I am. So easily up to about 60 kilograms worth of bush pig. Nocturnal. The ones that I've encountered actually have a slightly redder tinge than that picture shows. It just depends on where you see them, in which particular area. Obviously they evolved to have different colors. One day, I mean, it'd be so exciting if we could show you a bush pig on these live safaris. Has one ever been seen as a matter of interest? I'm, of course, calling upon the viewers who've been watching for years. I wonder if you could tell me if you've ever seen a bush pig. Because I imagine the guide concerned in that sighting, if you have, must have been over the moon with excitement. They have been known, bush pig, to chase people up trees. Much like wild hogs, wild boars, actually very dangerous animals when they want to be, when they're disturbed. I think that 60 kilograms of irate pig is not to be messed with. So we've got Stoffel, a new viewer watching in Tokyo, definitely a new name to me. You wanted to know where this is filmed. So I'm currently on Arathusa. We work on Djuma and Arathusa game reserves in the Greater Sabi Sands, in the Greater Kruger National Park area. So in the northeastern corner of South Africa. I'm sure you may have heard of the Kruger Park. It's the biggest protected area within South Africa, or biggest protected wildlife area within South Africa. An absolutely enormous area, close to 3 million hectares worth of unfenced wild. And it's a park that has been protected from human influence for the last 100 or so years. Absolutely enormous, vast area. Bigger than some small countries, like Wales, for example. It's great to have you on board. I hope you continue to join us for our future live safaris, because it's one of the most exciting things. You never know what's going to be around the next corner. And I believe around the next corner will be Scott Dyson and some guinea fowl.
So Brian and I are finally in a able vehicle, none other than Rusty, and we are back out on safari, and the first thing we've come across are these helmeted guinea fowl, and you'll notice they are letting off their alarm call every now and then. There's my terrible impersonation. You can see them going at it again now, and I'm not too sure what it is. There's interestingly, a third individual that you just got a glimpse of on the kind of left of your screen there. So that one's in front, and then there's another two closer behind. And what's interesting is that at this time of the year, they're usually in pairs. They're not usually in trinomials. So maybe it's the fact that there's a third one nearby that's causing the two further back to let off their alarm call. I was hoping it was going to be a snake of some sort, or maybe a bird of prey, a predator. And the helmeted guinea fowl are really good birds when it comes to seeing predatory animals and letting us know about them, even animals like leopards and lion. Brian was just telling me now that him and Steph were lucky enough to see a 6-foot-long African rock python not too long ago. And I know we didn't see very many last summer. I think I saw a total of 3. So happy that the first African rock python of this season has been found. And by responding to alarm calls like that from various animals, birds, monkeys, even antelope can help you detect snakes, especially the African rock python that can feed on antelopes. But 9 times out of 10, when you do come across animals that are alarm calling, you don't find anything. It is always worth investigating though. And we are just out on the quarantine clearings, just headed out from the camp where the vehicles are kept, and really looking forward to heading out and exploring already what little I've seen so far. It's remarkable how much the vegetation has changed over the last kind of 2.5 weeks since I've been gone. It literally looks like the earth has been scorched by a hot furnace blaze. Everything is kind of brown as it would be in the winter months that are usually dry. And who knows what the future will hold. There's various theories as to when we'll get some more rain. But we certainly are in a drought, if any of you may be joining for the first time. And it's one that's not only localized in this area of South Africa, but it's spread throughout the whole of South Africa and even neighboring countries. So a very widespread drought is being felt. So my game plan is to drive around and familiarize myself with the vegetation and a few things that obviously have changed since I've been gone on leave. And we're going to do so slowly, making our way into the area of Mumba Road, Cheetah Cutline on the eastern portion of the property, in the hope that we may be able to rustle up a female leopard. And Steph told me that he was out there this morning in that area, and there was tracks of what he thinks could have been Karula coming into the property. So we're going to go and fish around there a little bit and see if we can't find any further sign of her. But before we get there, obviously it's going to be really great to see what's happening and what has changed over the last couple of weeks. Not only am I going to familiarize myself with what's been changing in terms of the animals and vegetation here on Djuma and Arathusa, but also the new safari goers that have joined the family since I've been gone. Alan Tate, I'm told you are one of them, and the only animal you missing off your list is lions. And that's kind of a pity and a blessing in disguise, Alan, because it's going to leave something to really look forward to. When we're going to be able to fix that problem for you, I'm not too sure, but hang in there, and it's certainly going to be worth sticking around for, because they are wonderful animals. And the good news is, Alan, is if they are on our property, we in all likelihood will find them. But for the time being, as long as they stay on neighboring properties where we cannot go, there's nothing we can really do other than be patient and try and find you other interesting and exciting animals. It really is interesting, Alan, how the dynamics of all of the animals out here can change so drastically. And in the year that I've been here, there have been periods where you wake up every morning without a concern of where the lions are going to be, knowing they're going to be on Djuma. There was one pride in specific, the Inkahuma pride, who used to spend a lot of time here from kind of November 2014 for the first 3, 4, 5 months that we were broadcasting from then. We also had the Matimba males. Now they've all kind of moved off and new lions are coming in. I'm sure you've been told about the Birmingham Coalition. That's probably the major cause of all of the unrest between the lion prides in this area. But it's a natural cycle, and one that we are lucky to be a part of, even when we are not on the benefiting end. We're in luck, Alan. You wouldn't believe it. But we found a leopard. I'm not sure who she is, but she's looking very intently at something. She's using this little termite mound as a good vantage point. Look at her body language. Sorry about the little leaves in front of her face, but you can see she's very, very focused. It looks like it's Karula to me. I'm not sure if any of the other leopard IDing experts can help us. And Alan, isn't that just incredible? That, just as I was saying, we can benefit from other things whilst the lions are away. We've got another one of Africa's big cats, and certainly one of my favorite. This is awesome. What a luck. And I'm just going to creep forward and try and see what she's looking at. This is incredible prospects. She could very well catch and kill something, and that doesn't happen very often, but the chance is there, and that's all that matters. This is awesome. I can't believe it. What a great start. What a lucky start.
Welcome back, Scotty.
And Brian's just whispered, welcome back, Scotty. You don't get a better welcome back than this. Okay. I thought I was seeing things when I saw the spots on this termite mound initially, because it was simply too good to be true. And I did a double take just to make sure I wasn't seeing things before I eventually switched off the vehicle. Okay. We can stop here. And look at that. Absolutely incredible. Now, I'm a little bit rusty and can't be certain who this is, but it does look like Karula to me. Unless it's another female. It's not Shadow. That I'm certain of. And thank you very much to Raisa, and good to know you are watching. Raisa is one of the speediest of our leopard identifiers and also one of the most trustworthy, and they've been following the Safari Live experience for many, many years. And Raisa, thank you for your help, and also thank you very much for your kind words welcoming me back. Now, Karula, what did you see over there? I'm not even going to ask Brian to pan across there because it's quite thick and there's nothing really to see, and it looks like she's heading off in that direction anyway, so that's perfect. And she's obviously going to try and catch up to her and get a little bit closer to whatever it is that was lurking up ahead. Isn't this phenomenal? She's just meters in front of us, completely unperturbed for our vehicle. And like I said, I'm certain there's something up ahead here, and we must just sit tight, and hopefully we're going to be fortunate enough to see her in action. Well, certainly being on safari requires a lot of luck. Oh, she got a thorn in her foot there, just as she was about to scent mark. She did that kind of funny, in one motion, as the thorn went into her foot, she kind of pivoted forward to lick it out in one swift movement. And now she can carry on as if nothing ever happened. Now what we are going to do is we're just going to try and give her as much space as possible while she is hunting. So please bear with me if sometimes I kind of fall behind her a little bit. It's not that I don't want to stay close to her. It's just that I want to give her, and whatever prey she's stalking, the best possible chances of success. Not favoring either side. It would be wrong of us to favor the predator or the prey, so we try and remain neutral, and by doing so, we need to stay a little bit further behind out of the action. What I'm going to do is just get onto the Game Drive radio quickly and call the sighting in. It's on an open radio, so you'll be able to hear the chitter and chatter once I have called it in. Good afternoon, stations. Karula is on Weaver's Nest, just south of Philemon's cut line, heading west.
Okay, copy. Just got very much interested. Happy welcome back.
Copy that, Orbs. Thank you very much. Keep coming. Wonderful. Well, so happy to hear that Aubrey's close by, and it sounds like he's desperate to show his guests a leopard. And he's going to be making his way straight here. For those of you who don't know Aubrey, he's one of the two Juma guides, him and Taxon. And it's so often that he's the one calling us to the leopard. And always quite nice when it's the roles reversed. Okay, I think it's safe for us to move forward without interfering in any way. Yay! Can you believe that? Absolutely incredible. Like I said, when I saw that spotted coat, I thought, no ways, and I literally shook my head, thinking this is too good to be true. And thanks must go to Steph for his updates to me. And even though we are very far from where Steph had those tracks of who he thought was this female leopard this morning, it was his information that caused me to take the route that we ended up taking, and hence finding the leopard. So no skill involved, but like I said, being out on safari, often you got to bank your lucky moments. And we'll do just that right now. The leopard's just off to our right, and then I'm just going to creep forward a little bit further and then stop the vehicle. And I think I may just be able to see some impala. I can't be certain just yet. Oh, my driving's got a bit rusty since I've been gone. I'm just going to stop here now. So she's obviously heard something or can see something a little bit further off to the right. But I think directly in front of our vehicle, it's going to be difficult to see. I'm just going to get my binoculars out quickly. There may be some more impala, and impala can often form very, very large herds, and therefore they could be scattered out over quite a large distance here. What I thought was an impala earlier was a very rusty coloured termite mound, so that's a false alarm. Isn't it wonderful how even though we can see nothing, we know that there's something here. Her body language is just too intense and too focused for her to be on a casual stroll, and she knows there's an opportunity here. That's for certain. It's still very hot and warm, but that's not slowing her down. She looks like she's quite hungry. And what great, great prospects, because we've still got a lot of time left on safari this afternoon, and as the light begins to fade a little bit later on, her opportunities are going to become even greater. And it's not uncommon for leopards to actually sit and wait for darkness when they are close to prey, rather than rushing in and blowing a good opportunity. So we should also prepare ourselves for that to happen. It's the most bizarre thing. A leopard will be in full stalk mode, get sight of its prey, and then simply lie down and go to sleep, hoping that either the prey comes closer to her or that it gets darker and allows them to creep up a bit more stealthily and effectively. Again, please bear with me. I know it's difficult to kind of see what's going on. It's difficult for us to show you what's happening, but I don't want to ruin this opportunity for her. We also don't want to cause the prey to panic unnecessarily and possibly run towards her. So it's a very fine balance we're trying to keep here. Well, it's wonderful to hear that we've got a new viewer from today watching in Tokyo, and Stoffel would like to know if there are any fences between us and the Kruger National Park. And Stoffel, there used to be, but about 15 or 20 years ago, possibly even more than that, those fences were dropped between the Sabi Sands and the Kruger National Park. I forget the exact date. But it's been for quite some time now that the Sabi Sands has been open to the Greater Kruger National Park, making it part of a entirely natural ecosystem that's massive. It's 3 million hectares, Stoffel, that we are a part of. And the Sabi Sands is just 60,000 hectares of that 3 million. So we're a tiny little pinprick. But we are open. And therefore there's a free flow of animals like elephants and buffalo and wildebeest, the animals that range very large distances, as well as the lion and the leopard. So very, very fortunate to be exploring this area with you guys, and great to know that you're watching in Tokyo. I think it's safe for us to creep forward a few more meters now. Afternoon to Vernie, and Vernie is obviously a seasoned safari goer and knows that Karula is quite old, and not only that she's also been here on Juma for many years now, and is interested to know what kind of factors cause a leopardess to be able to stay for long in any given area, and what would cause her to move out if there are any reasons. And it's a good question, Vernie. She's kind of midway through her career, if she continues to lead a good life as she has up till date. She's 9 years old now, if my memory serves me correctly, and she could well live up to 18. There've even been leopardess that live up into their 20s, and there's multiple factors that will cause her to be successful in this area. Obviously her age and wisdom and experience are vital, but often leopardess will be actually thrown out by their daughters, and they are going to be younger and stronger and more bold. And that, interestingly, has actually happened with Shadow, her one daughter, who needed to kind of expand her property a little bit to ensure her young male cub was not affected by an intruding male from the west into her territory. But like I say, she's probably only halfway through her life at the moment, and they do tend to stick to their territories, the female leopardess. Once they set up a territory, it's not often that they move far distances, and they can live a whole entire life in an area of about 3,000 to 5,000 hectares. It's never solid borders, and the borders will always kind of fluctuate and vary in terms of size. And just like I said, she gave way to her daughter for a few months now. She's pushing back into that chunk of territory where her daughter was spending a lot of time. But the beauty of it is, a lot of it is kind of the story between the leopards, and they will only know the reasons and the finer details as to who gets which piece of land and why, and all of the disputes that often happen when we're not around, sadly, Vernie. So we don't get to see what happens and when all the time. We're only out 6 hours a day, And there's the other 18 hours a day where we're not out. And even those 6 hours a day that we are out, we are not always with the animals. So there's huge chunks of information that we miss. Even though we think we know what's going on, a lot of the time we actually don't. Good question, Bernie. It'll be very interesting to see how much longer Karula manages to stay in this area. So I'm just trying to loop ahead now with the hard resistance. Happy to hear that Matty, my good friend in Ohio, is watching, and it's good to be back, Matty, on safari with you. And aren't we so lucky to have found this leopard? What a great start, and I hope all is well in Ohio, Matty. Now, a lot of these bushes that we're driving over, for people like Stoffel and Tokyo who are joining for the first time, it's important to know that we know which vegetation can handle a little bit of a beating and which vegetation can't. And the vegetation that we drive over will always just pop back up. So nothing to worry about there, and we are as sensitive as possible when we are off-roading. Just going to wedge us into this little spot here. I think Brian should be able to get a decent view of it. Oh, there we go. And again, just like when we found her, she is focusing on using these termite mounds as little structures that they can climb up onto and get a slightly better view of their surroundings. What is it that she saw here? What is it that she sensed? Possibly it's a small antelope like a duiker or a steenbok. That's maybe why we haven't seen it, or maybe why it's run off unnoticed by us. So that is a possibility. Maybe she's not after a herd of impala like I initially suspected. I'm just going to get on the radio to Aubrey quickly just to make sure I know where he is, just so we don't miss him and don't waste any of his time. There he goes, and there he goes, calling me on the radio right now. Go ahead, Aubs.
Yeah, I'm driving past the junction.
Okay, copy, Orbs. If you head south about maybe 100 meters before Pangolin Track, you'll see my track heading west into the block.
Okay, go with it.
I've got your audio. I can't see you, but yeah, you should see my tracks quite soon next to that big Shadulu on the eastern side of the road. She was on there before she headed west. Okay, sorry about that, everyone, but it's important for us to just help everyone getting into these sightings. Obviously, now we're in the middle of a block. There's no roads close to us, and he's not going to be able to see us from the road. So him and his tracker, William, are going to have to follow our vehicle tracks to this point. I'm sure they're not going to have any trouble doing that, though. Hello to Macy, and also on the topic of trying to be as sensitive as possible with these animals when they're hunting, Macy's interested to know what I think the leopard's thoughts are of having us around, having these people in an open vehicle with the noise, with our voices, with us distracting them possibly. And Macy, I think we've got very, very little or no impact on this leopard and its hunting. As you can see, it's paid very little attention to us. And in the past, I've actually been in situations where, without doing it purposefully, I've found myself between the predator and its prey. I'm going to need to reposition the vehicle now. She's headed right behind the vehicle. So Macy, I've actually seen leopards using vehicles to try and aid them in their hunting, because obviously this vehicle creates a big solid structure that can be used to prevent the prey seeing the leopard. Also, the noise of the vehicle moving and the engine running can give the leopard ambient noise with which to stalk up to prey without being heard. So they can actually benefit from having a vehicle around, and that's why we try and be as sensitive as possible, stay away as possible, not keep the vehicle engine running, because that alone can prevent the prey from hearing her. But the leopards certainly don't mind our presence, and if they did, Macy, they wouldn't allow us to find them in the first place. That's very important that you understand that. Leopards do not typically act like the leopards of the Sabi Sands, where they are very relaxed with the presence of vehicles. Just going to stop here and see what she does next. Looks like a bit of scent marking now, so obviously whatever, and it's incredible, I can smell the scent mark from a previous tree. It's just blown towards us. So you get it there, Brian, and it smells like freshly buttered popcorn. It wasn't from that one where she's just scent marked on the knobthorn tree. She scent marked on a marula tree just behind us, and the wind just blew that fragrance across our nostrils, and it's the most wonderful smell, bizarrely enough. As you can see though, Macy, she's unperturbed by our presence, and as long as we are sensitive to what they are doing, we are going to have very, very little or no impact on what goes on here. Good question though, and I'm glad people are concerned for the well-being of the animals, because that is fundamentally why we are here. It's for the animals, and if we were negatively impacting in their lives in any way, well then we wouldn't be doing our job. So good that you guys are making sure that that is all in order.
Just checking out all the Investec way across. Heading down past Philemon's stop line. First respond.
Orbs, if you go back onto Weaver's Nest, just go a little bit south from Philemon's cut line, and then I can rev for you. Sorry everyone, Aubrey's having trouble getting to us, so I just want to focus on, like I said, not wasting his time and getting him in here as quick as possible. Orbs, I think we might even be popping out at the Oldham Nisi Kai or Philemon's cut line shortly, so that's the general area we're in.
Yeah, I got your audio now.
That was beautiful to see, and the way she just crept up onto that termite mound. They often stalk up not knowing what's going to be on the other side. But judging from her body language, it doesn't seem like anything, so let's take this opportunity to loop around and get some frontal views of her while she relaxes. So I'm told that there's been a lot of chitter and chatter on the various platforms about the wow on Karula's forehead. And if you look very closely, just above her eyes, the little spots spell out wow. And once we get into position here, Brian's going to be able to zoom in nice and close and show that to you. Looking around for Aubrey, he should be nearby. That's going to be the spot here. Orbs, if you just come along Weaver's Nest, we're close to the road now between Pangolin Track and Philemon's cut line. Okay. Now, there we go. If she just faces us, it's a bit obscure. at this angle. Oh, no, she keeps turning her head the wrong way. But if she faces us dead on, you kind of need to use your imagination a little bit. It's not clearly written out in bold, but you can certainly see some spots spelling out wow. Flies are giving her a hard time, and those flies bite, hence her ears twitching as they land. Sorry, Karula, whatever was in this area obviously has outfoxed you, but she still seems very focused and alert, and she could surprise us at any moment and alert us to wherever this prey could be. No. Isn't it incredible? She's literally been going from termite mound to termite mound, and that's something very important to remember when tracking for and looking for leopards. In the last kind of 15 or 20 minutes that we've been with her, she's spent a considerable portion of time on this termite mound. And while we're driving around on those quieter days looking for leopards, you guys can help us by searching now. And this is going to be a prime spot to check. Hello to Judy in Louisville, who's just brought to my attention that she thinks that we should not be off-roading during the drought conditions, as that was possibly a new rule that had been passed. That's not the case as far as I'm aware, Judy. When it comes to high-profile animals like this, big five animals, so leopard, lion, buffalo, rhino, and elephants, I think I left out, was one of them. But the high-profile animals, including the wild dog and cheetah, of course, the Magnificent Seven, are added on to the big five to make that the cheetah and the wild dog. So we will off-road for those animals, even during these dry conditions. But again, thank you for double-checking, and it would have been a great reminder, having arrived freshly back. Some of you may have been aware of rules that I was not. I was only here for about an hour before we headed out on drive, so not much time to unpack, have a quick catch-up with everyone, and find out what's been going on out here. So thanks for that, Judy. Aha, now Bev in Durban is clued up on the safari tricks that guides will perform, one of which is dropping a small branch on a road where it may help alert another guide to exactly where he needs to turn off. She's interested as to why I didn't do that for Aubrey. And Bev, it would have just been a bit time consuming and tricky for me to find a branch, break it and drop it off on the road as opposed to following the leopard. So it's usually when you are leaving a static sighting, like a sighting of lions where they're sleeping in a block, when you drive out you can drop a branch on your way out. But for us to do it there and then as we found her wouldn't really have been feasible. But it is a good point, and I did actually look around for a branch nearby, of which there weren't any. That would have made for a good indicator to Aubrey, and I'm still not too sure what's going on because the directions are fairly simple. Aubrey, where are you?
Yeah, I'm approaching the holding Biscay.
Okay, copy. Yeah, just come south along Weaver's Nest. When you get there, you'll get our visual from the road. You must have obviously just continued on a big loop.
Weaver's Nest again. Okay, got you.
Copy. Okay, very good. Now, I think it might be worth being ready for a screenshot. So I've got a feeling she's going to yawn, and it'll be quite a nice side profile here if she does yawn. Hello to Andrea in Toronto, and Andrea's interested to know how long does that buttery popcorn smell of the leopard scent mark last for? And I'd say anywhere between 12 and 24 hours. It will be pungent enough for us with our relatively weak senses of smell to pick up. Obviously, to other leopards, it will last much longer and will last days, if not weeks, if there's not any rain. So the popcorn smell, anywhere between 12 and 24 hours, depending on the weather conditions. And again, that is just a guess. I've never actually gone to an area and monitored it closely, like that tree where we just saw a scent mark now. I haven't kept going back to it repeatedly to work out how long exactly it smells for, but I'm pretty sure anywhere between 12 and 24 hours will be the likely time span. Well, you'll maybe hear the audio of Aubrey's vehicle approaching, so that's good news. He's finally with us. And Karula's taking a small breather here. After that initial excitement, she was so intent on something up ahead. She's now taking a little bit of a time off. And again, that's not uncommon with the leopards and lions, especially during the daylight hours when it's very hot like this. They may move for short periods of time and then stop, have a break, regroup, and then continue. How long she's going to lie here for, your guess is as good as mine. But let's hope it's not too long, and let's hope she gets on the move. And some screenshots have been sent through of that wow, so well done for those of you who have captured the screenshots, and feel free to share them so that the new viewers can also take a peek on Twitter or whichever platform you're watching on, and that way they'll know exactly what the wow is all about. We're going to send you across to Jamie for a quick update as to what she's been up to, and hopefully when you get back to us, Karula is going to be on the move and entertaining us.
In the meantime, Viam and myself have been wandering along the western edge of Arathusa, and we've just bumped into one of the most striking birds that you can see out here, an African green woodhoopoe. Somebody asked me about them a couple of days ago. One of the viewers wanted to see them because he'd heard about the cackling woman, and this is the bird that is given the local name of the or that translates as the cackling woman, because of their call and the way that they rock backwards and forwards when they do it. It sounds very much like laughter. You usually see them in groups. This one has been left behind by the rest of the wood hoopus. It's got distracted in this beautiful dead leadwood that it's sitting in and trying to get hold of any of the bugs that might be under the bark or in the crevices of this tree. You can see with that long beak with a very, very sensitive tip, how it can dip it in and out of crevices within the tree itself and pick up on any kind of movement of something like small termites or insects that might be moving through it. And interestingly enough, this dead tree that it's sitting in could probably be easily a couple of 100 years old. That's the wonderful thing about leadwood. And of course, as its name suggests, this wood is unbelievably hard and so dense that it actually sinks in water. And they've done a couple of tests on the different, or carbon dating different leadwood stumps. And one of them that exists within the Kruger National Park around, I think it's around Bataba actually. There's Heavium, that leadwood stump. I think it's around Bataba.
No idea.
Oh, okay. Viam has no idea. But there's a big leadwood stump that has been carbon dated. And they say it started growing in 1100 and something, died in 1600 and something. And the tree, the tree stump itself is still present 500 years later. Incredible to think about. And one always wonders when you see a tree like that, what sort of things it's witnessed. Now, speaking of witnessing things, we found a scene of a crime. Well, maybe not a crime. You can't really phrase it like that. We found a scene of an attack. Oh, is this going to blow away while I try and set it up? Stay. And Liam and myself got out to just stretch our legs and have a look around the drainage line in Arathusa. And we came upon... don't like touching feathers, actually. Came upon this particular site, and I've grabbed sort of 3 different sizes of the feathers that we found. Now, I strongly suspect that it's the kill of either a cat, I forgot these little ones, fluffy little chest pieces, probably a kill of something like a cat, maybe a bird of prey. And the reason I say that is how intact the base of these feathers have been. So where it's been ripped out of whatever poor hapless bird that was caught, the creature that devoured it plucked the feathers rather than tore or broke them. And sometimes things like jackal do kill birds, but they tend to break the bases of the feathers off. They shear it off and chew it off rather than plucking neatly like this. It makes me think possibly something like a caracal. The other giveaway, of course, was the fact that when we looked up into the tamboti tree, I could see where the bird was killed. I could see all of the feathers stuck up there. So, of course, dogs can't climb trees. So either a bird of prey or something like a cat. I've got some nice primary feathers for you to show you. You can sort of see how beautiful whatever particular bird this might have been. These probably came from around its chest. Something mottled and very pretty in that particular case. You can see the downy ruffles at the base of them. Insulation layer, or it would have been when this bird was still alive. It is a big bird. I mean, if we look at these feathers, the primary flight feathers, these ones have been actually torn off or sheared off, and I think probably because of their size. The primary feathers are deeply rooted within the bird itself, and this is part of the primary. And you can see how they're layered on the wing itself. This would have come from the wing. You can also see how long it is in terms of size. I mean, it's easily, these primary flight feathers, what would this be? Probably close to about 30 centimeters, which in inches puts us around roughly 15 inches long. So a big bird of prey, I would say, big raptor, just judging by the size of what it is we found. An interesting place, and within that drainage line, in a thick sort of tamboti thicket, maybe a leopard, possibly, although that tree was a little bit...
All dogs.
You joking? Where?
Right there.
Hey! Right, change of subject, time to go. Whoopee! Where's this boundary now? What is this? That's insane! You have to come right. I can't. This is the boundary, guys. Or at least I think it is. Yep, this is the boundary. Come on, dogs. You have to come this side. Yes, come here. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Come on, doggies. This way. This way. Yes, you want to come this way. We're looking right across the boundary of Arethusa, and they're coming straight to us. This is epic. Looks like the Investec Pack. Oh, I mean, I can't tell just yet, just judging by the size of the pack that we're looking at. Hey, Liam, your suggestion to come along the drainage line? Absolutely spot on. Yes, and here they come. To us. Definitely the Investec Pack. Here they come. On to Arethusa. Come on, guys. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. Stopping to have a look across the drainage line, moving in from Elephant Plains. What a lovely surprise. Gosh, I love these live drives. Here we go. Adult male has moved up onto the crest of the drainage line, and here we go. The whole afternoon has just changed pace. Whoop. Oh, Jigger's brakes groaning there in protest. Let me just get up into position. So cool. What a nice surprise. Oh, hello. Dogs everywhere. So exciting. I just need to call this in. Sorry guys, bear with me one moment. Stations, I've got the Madach here at Second Windmill at one of the crossings. This definitely looks like the Investec Pack. Awesome. I'm so excited. And here comes a pack of puppies. And the beeping, by the way, is from the virtual reality rig setting itself up so that we can get some of them coming straight past. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not sure where the 11th is. Might have gone past me on the other side. Hello, puppies. Oh, there's a lot of males in this pack. What a nice surprise. Why wild dog sightings are always so frantic. The worst turning spot in the world. Sorry, 20-point turn here. Hey Pat, you're right. Leopards, wild dogs, really doesn't get better than this. Stations, I can't copy anybody's responses to this Madach sighting, but they're mobile south along the eastern edge of the Marikeni drainage. Which way are you going to go, doggies? Let's try and catch up with them. They're on the move, on the prowl. everybody. This is where it gets a bit bumpy. Better hold on to your seats. Diving, still with the pack. Oh, steenbok, steenbok, steenbok! They're after it. This is a perfect example of how wild dogs hunt. They course through the bush like this. Oh. Chase after the steenbok. The adults are running ahead. I can't drive and scare the puppies away. Here they go after it. Oh, I think they lost it. I think that was one very lucky steenbok. Sure. That steenbok's heart must be absolutely pounding. So this is what they do. They move through the bush like this in their pack formation, all as a unit, and then course through. And as soon as something like a steenbok gets spooked like that, it shoots out, it tries to run away, and very often they try and hunt it down. They're on their way to the Arathusa Dam. I'm almost certain of that, but they are on the hunt. And when you watch a wild dog pack like this in motion, it is one of the most beautiful spectacles that nature has to offer. This coordinated unit of these incredible individuals working together, seemingly without having to tell anyone else what they're doing. It just works, it just flows. I always think of wild dogs hunting as like a liquid machine. We're right in the middle of them, they're all around us. So cool. Luckily they've chosen a block that isn't incredibly dense, so we're able to stay with them. A nice elephant path here that hopefully they'll... Oh. Wonderful. Thanks, Curious One. Curious One says that the wild dogs are a reward for being kind enough to show the wood hoopoo. I'm glad to hear it. Everybody duck. Watch heads. Nothing like a wild dog pack to test your off-roading and your judgment. Charlie, yes, that steenbok did manage, luckily enough, to outrun the wild dog pack. Hey. Very bumpy, sorry everybody. Lots of termite and aardvark burrows. Got to be quite careful the ground doesn't collapse under us. They're going to make their way to the dam. pup keeps stopping to sniff, staying quite far behind the rest of the group. I wonder what she's looking for, or what she's smelling. Wild dogs decide to go, whether or not they decide to head across to the dam or whether they keep going. Now standing by, the Dutch have just made their way to Seeps Pan. Now that's affirmative. It looks like they're going to go into the scoreboard here from Seeps Pan, just to the west of Seeps Pan. Everybody duck. They're going into this drainage line here. There's a 2-track that goes from the road between Safari Dam and Seeps Pan. There's a 2-track that goes into the scoreboard here. That's where we are at the moment. Looks like they're going to cross the scoreboard though. Copy. I'm going to try and stay with them. I might lose them in this scoreboard. Sorry guys, just updating the Arathusa Rangers about what's happening. Here we go. Look at this. What's down here that's got them so interested? I think there's some water down there. A little bit of a seep. Yes, I can definitely see mud, and they've come for a bit of a drink. Tails wagging furiously. And this is so when wild dogs attack, they will grab and disembowel their prey pretty much almost instantly. And James Taylor, you were wondering about the way that they go about that. And it's generally pretty much, they could grab with their claws to an extent to try and hold the prey down. For the most part, most of the work is done by the jaws themselves. All having a drink in this little mud wallow in the scorver here. The scorver is the colloquial term or the local term we give for a drainage line like this. So if you heard me talking about it on the radio, that's what I was referring to. And they've come across straight here for a bit of a drink. And you're looking at the moment at one of the most endangered predators out here. There's somewhere in the region, I think, of under 250 in South Africa. Ooh, you can hear it lapping. And you're looking at 14 individuals of about 194 within the Greater Kruger area. So it's got the largest population in South Africa. A predator that has been persecuted by mankind for the last 100 years or more. And is only just on the cusp of a recovering population. Just bear with me one more moment. I'll hop on the Game Drive channel. Our stations, it looks as though these wild dogs have gone static. In the scorver here, there's a 2-track that leads down into it, and there's a bit of a mud wallow pan that they're drinking from. Yeah, that's affirmative. When I get your audio, I'll let you know. You should see my mover from the road. Oh, that's affirmative. If you come along from Safari Dam and you just drive west along that Scover, along the road that runs parallel to the Scover, you'll see me from the road.
Are you not to the right?
Oh, there's a hyena coming through, or there's a hyena on the right. I don't think the wild dogs have spotted it yet. I don't know if it has spotted the wild dogs, and this is often one of these situations where you get serious conflict. Thanks, VM, well spotted. I don't think the wild dogs have seen it though. And they're moving up out of this drainage line. And I think they're on their way to the dam. So while I relocate them, let's go pop back over to Scott, who's still with Karula. I'll catch up with you shortly. Seems to have disappeared on Rusty. That's okay, he'll be up and running soon. We'll catch up with the wild dogs. You can stay with me as we do. What a nice surprise. This is not how I was expecting this afternoon to go at all. We actually went along that drainage line to see if we could catch up with the Anderson mail. 20-point turn again. Dash mobile again towards Safari Dam. Where did you go, wild dogs? Okay, well, we find them again. Let's pop over to Scott, who's reappeared, and Karula is on the move.
Got some wildebeest, 16 youngsters.
Well, it was literally in the last 10 seconds that Karula decided to get up and active. And isn't our timing so fortunate? And well done to you and Jamie for finding the wild dogs. What a pleasant surprise. And it seems like we're having a very fortunate afternoon here on Safari Live, ping-ponging between two apex predators. It doesn't get much better than this, especially that Karula, just on cue, decided to become active. And where will she take us now? She's passing by very, very close to the vehicle. Oh, interestingly, she's going to pass by the back of the vehicle, which is probably a meter behind Brian. Karula. This is a very tricky area she's kind of aiming to head down into now. There's quite a lot of riverbed and thick vegetation here. We should be able to keep up with her. And she's still very close by. She's just out of Brian's kind of arch of movement. So I'm just going to let her continue moving. And we can just reposition ever so slightly over here. Now, Gillian Milwaukee has just asked a good question, and Gilly's noticed there's kind of appears to be an extra flap of skin or a slight protrusion on the back end of Karula's belly. You can only really see it when she's walking, and Gilly's obviously interested to know whether or not I think she could be pregnant. Now, Gilly, they've had so much up and down in terms of thought processes behind her pregnancies over the last year, really. And I can't be sure looking at her, to be honest. So I don't think so. I could be wrong, and it's very difficult to tell. They don't protrude hugely like the herbivores. They give birth to very underdeveloped young. So it's not easy to tell when predators are pregnant, or at least it isn't for me. And I wouldn't be able to tell for certain whether she was Gilly. What is interesting though, and for those of you who are new to Safari Live, is that she lost her last known cubs in this kind of time last year, a whole year ago. And leopards can very quickly recover from losing cubs and within weeks mate again and focus on trying to get the next generation into the system. And she did that same thing. She's been seen mating countless times over various periods over the last year, but she's never once been seen to give birth to any more young. So you're not sure if it's the males that are the problem. Maybe she has in fact actually given birth, lost those cubs with no one actually seeing it. There's a strong chance that could have happened, that she's had a full 3-month gestation period.
They're going there. Okay, we've caught up with the wild dogs. They're hunting the impala. They're coming sprinting through Arathusa Lodge. The guests must be having a most incredible experience. They come. Oh, there goes an impala dashing in front. Wild dogs bouncing behind them. There's utter chaos. There's just sprinting blurs of colour all the way through. That's what I was talking about this well-oiled, almost liquid machine that they are when they start to hunt. And it happens so fast that for us to actually stay with them is really tricky. Particularly whilst eating dust. They're sprinting through. Get an idea of how fast that we're actually going because you watch the bushes flash by and they're shooting past ahead of us. Hold on everyone. Oh. Liam doing a marvelous job of actually keeping the camera on the back as well as himself. Again. It's a bit of a bumpy experience for everyone. Have they managed to catch one? They haven't come out of this thick thicket yet, so I think that they well might have. Oh, there they are. I can see them on the other side of the drainage line. Copy, thanks. I'm going to go around. They're running back in the opposite direction. And this is where stuff gets really tricky. You can see them running back towards the dam. I don't know if they've caught an impala or not. Try and get us back onto the road so we can loop around. But you get a rough idea of the phenomenal speed of these animals. So you saw how fast we were driving and we didn't even manage to catch up with them. Duck again. Up with them around the other side of the drainage line, but just so that I can focus on talking to one of the other guides as well as spotting where they are. I'm going to send you back across to Scott, but I'll catch up with you very shortly.
Affirmative, no problem. Welcome back, everyone. You just caught the trail end of my conversation with Andrew, another guide who's making his way to Karula, and he's not far away and is going to be joining us shortly. Now, she basically moved about 20 or 30 meters from where she crossed the road, and now she's sat down and she's peering off into kind of our general direction. We've scanned around, can't seem to see anything here. So again, not too sure what she's after, but there's certainly something that's catching her attention here. Sounds like some wonderful fun across with the wild dogs, and I hope you guys are enjoying racing about with Jamie. It's one of the most exciting animals to follow when they're hunting, the wild dog. Quite nerve-wracking, because the chance of losing either your cameraman or your guests is quite high, as you have to drive like quite a maniac in order to keep with them. So let's hope VM is still in one piece. You can see she's panting quite heavily, even though she's been stationary for quite some time, and that's testament to how warm and humid it is this afternoon. Even though it's been cloudy, it's an incredibly humid part of the world, the low veld of South Africa, and it's certainly taking a lot of adjusting for me, who's been used to the more crisp Mediterranean climates of the Cape over the last 2.5 weeks. Not nearly as humid and muggy as the conditions here. Come on, Karula, I think the coast is clear. You've stopped and scanned, there's nothing ahead, so keep on moving. And let's try and find you a meal. One thing that I learned quite quickly after spending my first few months as a trainee ranger here in the Sabi Sands is that we don't understand how difficult it is for predators to actually catch their prey. And as stealthy as she is, as incredibly well camouflaged as she is, she's got incredible speed, she's got all the tools at her disposal. But so do her prey, and her prey are incredibly quick and fast and easy to, and very capable of detecting her. So it's not something that's easy to witness, predators making a kill, and it's not actually an easy thing to happen full stop for the predators. And we must remember that the odds are stacked hugely in the prey's favor. And that's why she'll take so much time, like she has now, to stop, listen, really do as much calculating as she can before blundering opportunities. She doesn't know when it'll be until she can find her next possible meal. So we must remember that. And I kind of cheekily urged her on there, where in fact she knows exactly what to do. She's a very capable hunter. And if anything, we just need to practice our patience and simply be happy by the fact that we are in her midst and being allowed such great insight into her life this afternoon. Hello, Sharon, and you are correct. You are interested to know if Karula lost a cub earlier this year, and it was on the 31st of December. I'm reminded kindly by Kirsty in the final control room, and it was a tragic day, Sharon. What happened was Mark, who was on drive that morning, got alerted to the fact that Karula had been seen, and there were 3 vehicles following Karula, which is the kind of normal protocol. And all all of a sudden, this tiny little cub came out. Miniature. It was the first time anyone had ever laid eyes on it. And within a minute or so, hyena were in on the scene, and they managed to catch and kill that cub. She valiantly tried to defend the cub against the hyena and jumped down from a small fallen down marula tree, but to no avail. And that was the last time that we know for certain that she actually gave birth, but I've got a feeling that she may have given birth in the interim, just simply without us being in the right place to see it or know about it. And even though she's been an incredibly successful mother, leopards have got an incredibly difficult job raising cubs, and it's very often other leopards that will actually kill the cubs, not necessarily hyena, not necessarily lion, but male leopards that did not father cubs will also kill them. So she may have been unlucky now, despite her very, very fortunate history with raising cubs, unlike her daughter Shadow, who's been incredibly unlucky and has yet to raise one cub to adulthood. That little structure behind you is the pump house that pumps water to our house, as well as the little water hole in front of Juma. So that's what that is. And Charlene, in New Hampshire, you've got nothing to worry about. The wild dog are very, very far away from Karula now, so pose no threat to her. But if they were nearby, she would certainly do what leopards do best, and that is hastily skedaddle up into a tree. Look at her, interested to see that we're obviously doing our maintenance on the pump there. She's just making sure we've got the oil levels right, I think. Keeping a beady eye on the situation there. Remarkable. There's a tiny little gate that she was looking through there. That's the entrance into that funny little room. And who knows, maybe she can smell the water that's being pumped up from the borehole and wanting to get at it. That could be a reality. Okay, well, we're going to leave her to check up on this pump house, and we're going to shoot you across to Jamie and a quick update on the wild dog.
Phew, some very exhausted puppies, having sprinted after those impala. They haven't been successful. They missed out. Somehow those impala got very, very lucky and managed to escape them. And the whole pack has collapsed on the side of the road here, panting to try and cool down. A very hectic chase, but have you noticed how the pups are more and more involved in the hunts themselves? So a couple of weeks ago actually, when we sat with them when the adults shot off after the Inyala, we saw how the pups, this was, I'm talking about the Sands Pack sighting now, but the same applies because their pups are about the same age. The pups just sat down and waited for the calls of their parents to follow on. Now they seem to be keeping up much better with the adults. Donna's watching in Jackson, and Donna was wondering if I could count how many males and females there are within the pups themselves. Well, first of all, Donna, I can only count 10 pups. Wait, there's one male, there's one female, one male, one female, 2 males, 3 males, 4 males, 5 males, 6 males, 7 males, 8 males, 8 males, and 2 females that I just counted, Donna, just by sheer luck as that pack ran past. We got really lucky there, Donna, because I was about to say that it's almost impossible to do. 9 males is the last pup. I'm missing an adult somewhere, but it could well be lying in the shade. I've only counted 13 individuals with this particular wild dog pack. This gentleman very kindly letting me go ahead. Thank you. So Donna, what did I say? 9 males. 9 males, 2 females in the pup dynamic. I think that's the breakdown. It was a very quick, they were flashing past me. I couldn't even properly look to see if you were seeing what I was seeing. I just had to stop and count while I had the opportunity. So I hope I got you an accurate count of those dogs. On the hunt again. They obviously haven't eaten this afternoon, and after a brief rest, they're on the move again. You said, wow, they've had 2 missed kills today, and that's quite rare. And yes, we know that. Oh, look at that one's beautiful patterns, the one at the back. All that white. Stunning. So it's a good point. Generally, wild dogs have close to an 80% success rate in terms of their kills. And we've watched them miss out twice, which is fairly unusual. And I think just got unlucky at this particular point, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get lucky in the next hour or so while there's still some daylight. They're running out of daylight though. They're going to have to, that's why they're moving once again, almost constantly. The impala have just vanished. They have scattered, and I'm sure there's some very, very relieved animals wandering around the bush at the moment between the steenbok and those impala. Wendy, who's watching in Florida, in terms of how long a wild dog can run full speed before tiring out, I've read statistics that say they can easily cover 5 kilometers, which is about 2.5 miles, at full speed. You probably find it's longer. So for new viewers, these animals have far more stamina than something like a leopard or a lion. They're smaller, so their bodies don't gain heat as fast, and they don't overheat as quickly as something, for example, like a lion might do or a leopard. They're not stealth predators, they are coursers. They chase their prey down. Although both times, interestingly in these cases, in the 2 hunts we've witnessed today, they have given up fairly quickly. So we haven't done, we've done a couple of mad dashes, but they've ended relatively quickly. And I wonder whether it's just because the wild dogs get to the point where they know it's actually a waste of energy for them, and rather conserve that energy until there's going to be a hunt that they know they're going to be successful in. I'm not too sure. Sorry guys, bit of a traffic bottleneck. And while we loop around and they make their way to the dam, Karula's moving into thick bush, so let's go across there.
Well, good timing. You just got a glimpse of Karula disappearing down into a riverbed. Fear not, we are going to attempt to stay with her, but it is going to be tricky going. Quite a thick area she's moved down into, but we'll do our best to try. Let's just give it a moment or two. She's been zigzagging a lot this afternoon, east, west, north, south, and that obviously makes it a little bit more tricky for us to try and work out where she's moving, but or at least position ourselves in the correct spot. Waiting for her becomes a little bit tricky. Forecasting her movements is never easy, especially when she's in a mood like this. But I think this little trajectory that we are on now is going to get us into a decent spot to see her again. Keep track of her as she looks for a meal. she's multitasking while she's looking for her next meal. She's also doing some scent marking, so making sure that she keeps her territory in check. And Brian's done a great job keeping on her. Even though you may have not been able to see her, he has been able to spot her as she moves through this thick vegetation. And look at how incredible that camouflage is. Unbelievable. Well, I don't think we're going to lose visual of her anytime soon, but we are just going to have to be patient as she's going to be moving in between some thick vegetation and some open areas, but we're not going to lose her. Things are looking good. And I know there's been a lot of excitement back with those wild dogs, so don't worry. I will get the message when it's the right time to send you back to Jamie. But for now, you'll be with me and Karula and Brian. The sun's just beginning to kind of settle above the western horizon. It's just broken through a small little bank of clouds that I can see. So I'm guessing in about the next 10 or 15 minutes the sun will probably set. There you can see the glow coming through from the sun there. But there's a lot of clouds out to the west. But what that means is that once the sun has set, is that it's going to become more favorable hunting conditions for this lady. What further complicates things for her is that it's a dead still afternoon. There's literally hardly a breath of wind. And on very still afternoons like this, it can be difficult for predators to sneak up on their prey because every little move they make can quite easily be heard. Okay, well, let's keep on the move. Let's see what she's going to do next. Well, good afternoon to Gem B, and thank you so much for the info you've just sent through, indicating that this same leopard many years ago spent a lot of time with her first 2 litters at that very same pump house where we've seen her sniffing about now. Maybe she was reminiscing for old days, and I really am desperate to get some leopard cub viewing, as I'm sure a lot of you are. We are long overdue leopard cubs. I may have just heard an alarm call of an impala. I hope I'm wrong. But you can see how she stopped immediately, and I thought I heard the nasal snort of an impala, but can't be certain just yet, but it stopped her in her tracks. And without the elements of surprise, she will have very little or basically no hope of catching her prey. The same goes for most of the predators. I think cheetah and wild dog are possibly 2 animals that does not apply to. Cheetah because they are incredibly fast, the fastest mammal on the planet. So even once their prey has detected them, there's still a chance that they can chase them down over fairly long distances, much longer distances than a lion or leopard would chase, into the hundreds of meters, whereas a leopard and a lion will usually only chase 10 to 15 to 20 meters as a general rule. It's a short burst of speed, an ambush attack, whereas wild dog and cheetah can chase for slightly longer, wild dog considerably longer. They can chase for many minutes or miles until their prey tires and eventually collapses. And that's why I was hoping that she had not been detected. I am on her side. I will come clean. I mentioned earlier that we don't try and aid any of the predators or prey. and interfere in Mother Nature's plans, but you certainly are allowed to pick who you would like to support in this endeavor. A lot of the safari goers may be on the team of the prey. I'm certainly on the predators team for a number of reasons. The odds are stacked heavily against them, and also we very seldomly get to show you an actual takedown or a kill. So when it does happen, I get very excited. And the only leopard kill that we have actually managed to capture on film from start to finish was this same leopard we're looking at here. And it's a very interesting story on the topic of what we were discussing a little bit earlier, and that was her losing her cubs. Now, what happened was she lost her cubs in the morning, and she continued to search in that area and call in that area, I think that afternoon. And the following morning, we found her again searching in that very same area, calling, hoping that her cub hadn't actually been caught by the hyena. I was with her that morning, the following morning, and she actually led us back to the area where she had successfully hoisted a female impala kill. And at this time of the year, as you will all know, the female impala the females that are old enough have all got young lambs. And this impala was no different. The problem is that Karula had caught the mother and not killed the lamb. So this poor impala lamb hung around until that afternoon, when we returned to the area where she had this adult female kill, and we knew this baby impala was waiting there in the hope that its mother would return, just like Karula was hoping her cub would return. And Karula was sleeping away under a bush when all of a sudden this baby impala had one last plea, one last cry, trying to call its mother. And this got Karula's attention, and she made very short work of pouncing on that baby impala and essentially putting it out of its misery. It would have starved to death had Karula not caught it. But isn't it fascinating how within 24 hours this leopard had lost her cubs, and obviously, or her last remaining cub of a litter, and obviously we were hugely sorry for her. But within 24 hours she had killed a mother and her calf. So it's a tough world out here, and that was the only leopard kill we've managed to film up till date since I've been around. Okie in Oklahoma would like to know if I've ever seen a leopard carrying its cubs up into the trees, and unfortunately I have not been that lucky. I've only on very few circumstances actually seen a leopardess carrying her cubs in her mouth, so that's something that I have not been lucky with in my career. And I certainly haven't seen one carry the cubs up into a tree, but I have certainly seen many leopard cubs scrambling up into trees, sometimes tiny little trees, just to escape from hyena and even lion when they come across their kills, or simply just trying to evade them. And it's critical for leopard cubs from a very, very young age to be good climbers because that is often their best escape route. So, the wild dogs have pulled a little bit of a disappearing act, and Jamie is desperately trying to track them down again. So, that's what's happening across in Arathusa. The dogs are out and about and making Jamie's life tricky, but she is still there. So, aren't we so lucky to have Karula escorting us through the African wilderness? in San Diego. And sadly, Remain, no, I haven't heard any updates on the Anderson male. And not too sure what he's up to or where he's hiding at the moment. And for those of you who don't know the Anderson male, he's a massive, massive male leopard who we've only seen on a handful of occasions. And he does sound to be heading closer towards Juma as a general rule from the south than from the west. Rather not towards Juma, towards Arethusa, so closer towards an area where we can see him. But for now he's got Tingana, another big male leopard, keeping him at bay. So no other news on that big male. And if we get any inkling of the chance of being able to find him for you, we will certainly race across there, so do not worry about that. It's kind of a little bit of a quest between all of us here to try and get some more game time in with him. I think I'm winning at this stage. I think Brent may have had one brief sighting with him, but so far I've been the one that's been lucky enough to see Anderson only on 2 occasions. Oh, is it time for some grooming, it appears? Yep. It's not easy to keep looking this good. I understand, Karula, and you just take your time now to make sure everything's in order there. I would go so far as to say that leopards spend close on an hour every day actually grooming themselves. And again, that's just my little theory. Don't quote me on it. But about an hour a day they'll spend. They need to not only keep the burrs and sticky seeds that will latch onto their coats off them, but also the parasites, the ticks. And if they don't maintain their body well enough, they'll lose condition very, very quickly due to these blood-sucking parasites. And there you can see she's probably trying to nibble some out of her coat as we speak. And another question from Remain. Remain's interested to know what I think is the reason for the kind of greyish colour on the back of the legs of leopards. And Remain, I think it's kind of through default more than anything else. In terms of how these animals have evolved, it's their frontal view that is not their most important, but a very, very important view. And that is when they are hugging the ground, stalking their prey so that they can't be detected. That's critical. Finding food is probably their most difficult task, and therefore they would have evolved to look good from the front on. And when I say look good, I mean look very well camouflaged and blend in as well as possible with their surroundings. Anything on the back tends to be kind of a byproduct of the looks for the front. Oh, we need to rush across to Jamie. She's got lucky.
They've killed something. This one's got an impala leg. That pup at the back has got an impala leg. In that space of time between where I lost them at the lodge and here, they've already killed and devoured an entire impala. That is phenomenal. I've just come upon them now. We lost them for quite an extended period of time. Here's begging. There you go. And this is such a typical sighting. How cool is this sound? Sorry guys, bear with me one moment. It's just myself at the moment. There were 2 other vehicles in the sighting with me earlier, but I'm not sure if they've pulled out. They've just bummed a marla, but it's already finished in the time I lost them and found them again. They're incredible animals. So that little squeaking effort that you saw there, let me duck my head out of your way. So the adult walked up to take the leg from the youngster, and that begging sound is the foundation of a wild dog pack. Essentially, submission rather than aggression is the ruler of any kind of wild dogs. And so by begging and supplicating in that gentle posture and flattening its ears, making that squealing, begging sound, the pup was essentially saying, please don't take my leg away from me. It's my leg. Please, 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 can I have it? Please, Dad, can I have it? Please, please, Dad. And it works. And that's how these incredible animals actually stimulate the adults to regurgitate their kills. So when adults are left babysitting at the den site or the pups are there, the adults returning from a hunt before the pups are old enough to do so will actually bring back food for those at the den. And I've just read some amazing stories about wild dogs that have lost legs, and sometimes even in a rare case, one recorded case where a wild dog lost two and survived for an incredible period of time just because there's so much loyalty and care taken in a wild dog pack. They were seen as the devil's dogs by people because they were a terror for livestock. As you can imagine, if they're this efficient in killing wild impala. So we've witnessed 3 hunts. The third was successful, even though we just missed out on actually watching it. You could imagine the havoc they could potentially wreak, but it is a hugely unfair reputation, one completely undeserved. And now that they've moved away a little bit, I should be able to get a nicer view for you. Dense vegetation. We should be able to get a view of some of what's happening. Somebody's managed to get hold of a leg, munching away, and every now and again you can hear those squeaky beggy sounds coming from the rest of the pups that are scattered around us. And I told you that they are immensely effective predators. Earlier there was a very brief moment when a hyena walked past. Darlene, you were wondering what kind of natural enemies a wild dog pack might have. Darlene's watching in New Hampshire. Well, the answer to that is they're in the top 5 predator hierarchy, and they sort of compete for the 2nd or 3rd spot with spotted hyenas, and it just depends how many hyena are present at the time versus how many wild dogs. Lions are their biggest threat, and lions will go out of their way to kill them. Sorry, I got distracted. I'm just listening to the Game Drive channel. Okay, copy. Yeah, I'll just keep coming. You'll see me from the road. So sorry, I was in the middle of answering Darlene's question, and then I got some requests through from the Game Drive channel to just guide the rest of the safari guides into the sighting. So yes, lions are the biggest threat, and they're the particularly big threat for babysitting females or babysitters at the den, because they tend to be restricted in their movement. But also, we've seen the wild way that wild dogs course through the bush, and quite often, surprisingly often, they actually come straight across the sleeping pride of lions. And if they're not out of the way as quickly as possible, it will result in the inevitable death of that wild dog. Oh, sweet. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Please don't take my leg away. They're just like puppies sometimes. Now, Paul, we're only seeing the end part of this kill, but you've mentioned that they didn't seem to get much in the way of food. Wild dogs are so unusual in that they get the first primary access to a kill. So as soon as the adults have killed something, they get first access to it. Very, very unlike lions, where the poor cubs have to absolutely know their place within the den site itself. Enjoying that little leg. But they're ravenous creatures, so they're still scrapping over the spoils. And even once the adults have eaten and the pups have eaten the majority of the kill, if they go up to one of the adults and they beg sufficiently effectively, the adults might actually even regurgitate the part of the kill that they ate. It's incredible to think of. Sorry guys, I just need to get on the Game Drive channel again. Oh look, it's got the head. Just to clarify the position of these Madutch, it's the road that goes south of the power lines, between the pump house and Magic Woolly Open. Yeah, that's affirmative, sorry. I'm never quite sure what this road's called. Yeah, between the pump house and Magic Woolly Open. It's the one that runs, yeah, pretty much north-south. More east-west, actually. That's affirmative, almost in the same position. Look at that head. Looks like a female impala. And that also might explain copy that, thank you. That might explain why the pups and the rest of them are nibbling over scraps, is the fact that it looks like a baby impala, so there won't have been much meat. Oh no, actually looking at it now, that head is quite large. Little bit of play behavior happening. Those pups are starting to reach the point of sexual maturity. They go into their first estrus cycle and they mature fairly young, although they won't breed for quite an extended period after that. What an exciting afternoon this has been. And that is what makes this pack quite so voracious. And Wayne, who's watching in Philadelphia, you've raised a really good point. The fact that one impala doesn't really seem to be enough for a pack of this size, especially with 11 little pups to feed, 11 growing pups to feed. And Wayne, in terms of how much I would guess they would eat, another scrap for food. Yep, they're still after that head. Wayne, I would guess that they could easily kill an impala, a female impala or an impala of this size, probably easily at least 3 times a day. If the opportunity strikes, they will feed at least once a day, but they could very commonly kill more than that. And I've heard plenty of stories of wild dogs killing 3 or 4 impala in a row and going from one kill to the next to the next to the next. Clutching onto his prize, managed to do very well to keep that away from the rest of the ravenous siblings. And you can see how unique each one's spot patterns are. That one with all of that white is a particularly attractive individual, being caught in a game of tug-of-war. Ouch. There's nothing better than watching happy wild dogs play. No, my head. My impala head, leave me alone. You can see the ears back, the tail down, that submissive posture. Hey Monique. Monique's just jumped onto the safari on her way now that she's back from work. Monique, you wanted to know which pack this is. It's the Investec Pack. We're sitting in Arethusa watching one little wild dog run round and round and round and round. It's the Investec Pack. So far I've counted 13. There should be 14, but as you know, it's always tricky to keep exact track of where everybody's dashing about. And we got so lucky with them. We were sitting on the boundary with Elephant Plains watching a woodhupu, and Liam mentioned that he saw a wild dog, at which point I was thoroughly, not disbelieving, I completely trust Liam's judgment, just completely surprised. And they very kindly, very conveniently trotted across onto Arethusa, and the rest, as they say, is history. There was a very brief chase of a steenbok, then there was another brief chase of impala, and I lost them in the space of time that it's taken them to catch and kill and devour this impala. That was the space of probably less than 10 minutes. You can see how hot and tired they are, and this poor little one, all it wants to do is devour the impala head, and just every time it sits down somebody comes to try and steal it. Now, there are other vehicles that do want to see the sighting, and as our regular viewers know, you can't spotlight wild dogs, so there's a limited time period in which the other people would be able to sit and watch them. So I'm just double checking on my Game Drive channel to see if anyone else is going to come through into the sighting. Just bear with me one moment. No, there is. Our stations, I'm going to be pulling out of this sighting in the next few minutes. Guys, we do have to make space for other vehicles. We've been so lucky to spend this afternoon as we have. But as I said, there are other vehicles waiting to see them, and they've got limited light left this evening before they'll have to leave this particular sighting. Oh, shame. Desperate begging squeaks. We've got another 2 minutes with the wild dog, and then I'm going to pull out of the sighting and give another vehicle a chance. We'll enjoy the last few moments of being able to watch them. And bear in mind, of course, that it is darker than we realize because the camera is able to provide a little bit of ambient light or something. I'm not quite sure how that works. We'll go with that. Someone's managed to get hold of a leg and keep a leg, which, as you can imagine, with 10 brothers and sisters, all equally as hungry as you are, it's a bit of a tricky business. And that's what all of those little squeaking sounds are about. And chattering away there. Bopped it on the nose. I love watching them. They're incredible to see. And Shell, just to give you a rough idea of how big they are, the pups are probably about knee height on me, maybe just a little bit higher, and quite, as you've seen, they're very slender creatures, so they're probably somewhere in the region of about 18 or so kilograms. That's a rough estimate. The adults are slightly bigger. They come up to about mid-thigh on me. I'm trying to think of a domestic dog breed comparison. And although they're actually pretty much the size of my Weimaraner, Lexi, if you're familiar with that dog breed, probably about the size of a female pointer is maybe the best domestic dog comparison that I can give you in terms of size. Built for speed and stamina, the most incredible athletes of this particular animal world. Long distance cross-country runners, as it were. And Jeffrey, just a quick answer, not much interbreeding happens between siblings. It's one of the reasons why wild dogs have evolved the alpha system. And although the female does breed with other males, she mainly breeds with the alpha male, who will be unrelated to her. At the moment, this is more play than anything else. It's not serious at all, and it doesn't really happen that they actually interbreed with litter mates. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a wonderful evening, but it is time for us to pull out of this sighting and give another vehicle the option to come join in. Sorry guys, give me 1 second. Pulling out in 30 seconds. Copy, I'm on my way soon. Sorry guys. I'm going to say goodbye to you all. It's been wonderful having you on the back of our safari vehicle. I hope you have a wonderful day, and a big thank you to VM. We have him to thank for those wild dogs. So have a fantastic day. I'm going to pass you over to Scott for the last few moments. Cheers for now.
Well, it's been some serious action across with you guys, it sounds like, and I'm really looking forward to hearing a bit more about that from Jamie when she gets back to camp. Karula hasn't moved at all since you left us, and she continued to groom herself for about another 5 or 10 minutes and has been pretty much sleeping until now. At one moment she pricked up her ears and head and looked off to the west, but sadly it didn't lead to anything else, and it looks like she's deep into dream world there. Well, what an afternoon it's been, and certainly a very, very easy start for me to get back into the swing of things, and a pleasant change of events as well, starting off with a vehicle that would not work, and then I guess everything happens for a reason, and that's the important thing to remember out here. The vehicle wasn't working, we didn't let that bother us, but that may have saved us, and that may have got us into the area where we found this leopard at the right time. So I think an important lesson was learnt. Even though the chips were down at one stage, everything worked out well in the end. It's been a great experience to come back with so much warm welcomes, and thank you so much to everyone who said through your kind words. We're going to spend, though, the rest of the time looking at Karula. She has just picked her head back up, and I look forward to being out on an adventure with you guys tomorrow morning, along with Jamie. I think it'll be the two of us out again, and let's hope for more wild dog, more leopard, and hopefully some lion. I know they've been dodging you guys for quite some time since I've been gone. Anyway, enough chattering, and let's just enjoy the silence and the sounds and Karula. Oh, she's just puffed her head back down, so not the best timing. Anyway, still a beautiful sight. And I wonder if she's not going to have some luck tonight. Hopefully she does. Hopefully she catches something and hoists it into a tree nearby. We'll have to come out and search in the morning to find out exactly what happened.